Okay, if you are weighing up a huge career change and you are terrified, you need to listen to this episode. We are going to dig into how do you manage those terrifying moments in your career where you're about to take a leap and you're wondering, do I have what it takes? We're also going to dig into how long is too long in the one workplace. Do you stagnate if you stay too long in a role? So we're going to get right into that. And then, when is the right time to leave? What are the signs and signals you need to leave and get a new job? And then this other one is really good. Someone sent in this question: how can you tell if a new role is a bad fit or it's just hard because it's new? All these questions I'm going to answer today on the show. It's just you and me, baby. Buckle up, let's go. This is a podcast about making work work. You'll learn about leadership, career growth, and how to navigate those weird work challenges. I run a HR consulting business called Boldside, where I help leaders build epic team cultures. If you lead a team or run a business and you think I can help, let's connect on LinkedIn. My name is Shelley Johnson, and this is Work. All right, it's just you and me today, wherever you are, if you're on the train, if you're walking to work, if you're on some kind of commute, if you're working from home and you're just, having a little brain break, putting on this podcast, let's hang out. I am so excited to be with you in your ears today. And we've got some really good listener questions that we're going to be talking through. The first one is from someone we love on the pod, Michael. We love you, and you are a long-time listener. And we love you for that, or at least I do. I love when I say we love you, but it's actually just me. It's just me. Like I'm talking about myself as if I've got multiple personalities, which could be true. Let's get into it. Okay, Michael, your question. What advice would you give someone considering a major career risk or transition, especially when you're stuck between fear of it not working out and the quieter question, what if it does? I love that, Michael. You have framed that in the most amazing way. It is the quieter question, what if it does? It's the one we don't actually tend to acknowledge. Okay, let's get straight in then. Couple of things. We all have this problem, and it is a big problem. It is a challenge for every single person listening, and it's this thing called automatic negativity bias. And we are hardwired to think about everything that could go wrong. And as we know, when we start to think about everything that could go wrong, it turns out we find a lot of things that could go wrong. And Michael, if you're listening right now, which I know you are because you do listen to every episode, which I very much appreciate, there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you take a risk. On the flip side, as you say, the quieter question, there's a lot of things that can go right when we take a risk, but we don't tend to acknowledge them. And that is because of that automatic negativity bias. So we fixate, and I would almost say hyperfixate, on the things that could derail us, on the things that could completely rock our career, our financial security, all that stuff. And with good reason, we need to be able to protect our long-term career and all those things. So that's totally normal. I think the key part about this is we need to be able to notice when we're getting stuck in that cycle and spiral of negativity bias. To be able to acknowledge it and go, okay, cool, this is normal. This fear that's coming up for me around taking a risk is a normal part of it. I just need to be able to work through it. And one of the things that, people listening might find Alex Hormozy's stuff, they might like it, they might not, but he does say this one really good quote that I have found very helpful. And he says, fear lives in the vague. And when he first said that, I saw it on a reel somewhere, fear lives in the vague, it really resonated with me because often when we think about, okay, I'm nervous about this decision, I feel like it could go really wrong, we're not quite sure of all the ways it could go wrong. We just have this sense of foreboding. And it's like this vague feeling of something's not quite right. And so what he encourages people to do when they're thinking about a big risk is that you have to move from the vague to the specific. And so what that looks like is, how do I get specific about the exact risks? Instead of just being like, oh, I could ruin my whole life by starting my own business, by having a major career change. It's like, well, that's too big. That's too vague. Of course, we're going to be terrified of that because it's terrifying to think about it in such big, uncertain terms. So we've got to break it down and get really specific. And so this is what he would recommend. Define the real downside. So when you're about to take some kind of risk, let's just say you're currently an accountant. You've been an accountant for the last 7 years. You studied at uni. You've invested a whole heap of money into this career. And now you're like, I don't know if I love this. And I actually think I want a totally different career change. I want to become a buyer's agent or something just completely different to what you're doing right now. You might look at that and you're like, okay, I want that, or I'm curious about that, or there's some energy around it. But like, what if I ruin my life? What if I make no money? Like all the things. And so you can hear even the initial thoughts, the initial fears are all vague. So let's just go and go, okay, well, let's get clear on the actual downside, all the risks. And so what we want to do, and Michael, I want you to do this, and anyone listening who's thinking of a big career change, or even just a smaller risk, you're going to move from vague to specific. So you're going to write down, okay, what are all the possible downsides? What are the actual risks? And I want you to quantify what they are. Like get very clear, okay, if I go and do this buyer's agent course, that might be the first step towards the career change. What's the risk if I get in there and I realize I don't like it? Well, let's say it costs 10 grand to do the course. I have no idea. I'm making all this stuff up right now. But let's say it costs 10 grand. Okay, well, yes, if you get in, you do it, you realize, no, I don't like it. Yes, that's a big cost, but it's not as big a cost as quitting your job with nothing to go to. So we just got to weigh up and we go, okay, well, let's rank these risks. Let's look at all the downsides and then let's see how comfortable I am with those. So I want you to go, okay, list all the risks, every single one you can possibly think of. Then you're going to look at the cost of those, and then you're going to look at the likelihood. And this is the most important part, because most of our fear, the biggest fears we have about any career change, and the ones that feel most heavy and weighty, the impact of that risk happening might be catastrophic, but the likelihood of that risk eventuating might be low. So let me say that again. If there's a risk that's high impact, let's say I change jobs and I don't like it. Well, that's a high impact risk, but what's the likelihood of that happening? And you've got to work that out. And then you start to go, okay, well, if the likelihood of that happening is high, I've got to do some stuff on the back end to mitigate that risk. So the way you would mitigate it if you're changing jobs from a current organisation to a new organisation, you're not quite sure, the way you do that is you get a sense of the culture beforehand. You try and reach out to people maybe on LinkedIn who work there to get a read of what is this job actually like. You try to ask them all the things, like no surprises, what are all the things I should know about this organisation. So the way you mitigate that risk is by asking curious questions, by digging in deeper. So going back to this idea, fear lives in the vague. So I want you to try and get specific. You're going to list out every single possible risk, every single downside of taking the plunge, career change or starting a business or taking a new job. And then you're going to write the impact of that risk. What is the impact and what's the likelihood? Then based on those high likelihood risks, you're going to come up with some strategies to mitigate them. So that is, Michael, how I would first start. A couple of other things, because this question, I don't know how many times we've answered this question on the pod about risk. I think it is the single biggest challenge for most people in the ages of 28 to 40, where we go through, we've been in a career for a while and we think, oof, I'm getting itchy feet. I want to do something else. I want you to think about the difference between reversible decisions and irreversible decisions. So often when we're like taking some kind of big career like move, we're taking a like bold step. In that moment, because it is scary, we think if I get this wrong, everything's going to blow up. It's like, well, will it? Because some of these decisions are reversible. Like, can you go back? Can you take on a new opportunity? Can you change the scenario? And in most cases, the answer is yes. But often we think when we're taking these big steps, these big leaps, that they're irreversible. And if we stuff it up, we're absolutely screwed. And that is just not true. So I want you to be thinking about, okay, what is the difference between an irreversible decision and a reversible decision? Can I go back? Can I change things? If I go and make this decision, if I start the business, if I move careers, am I set for life in that thing? No, we're not. So just knowing that and being able to go, okay, it's not the end of the world if this doesn't work out. The other thing I've been thinking about when it comes to career moves is looking for signs of momentum. Because one thing, one of my amazing friends has been talking for, I don't know, like maybe we've been talking for 2 years about them wanting to start their own business. And they've been in their career for like a really long time, 15 years or so, super experienced, really talented. And they're like, I really want to start my own thing. And each time we catch up, I'm like, okay, so how's that going? And they're like, yeah, no, I'm just thinking about it still. And I often wonder, okay, what is it that you need to take the plunge? And I think about 3 things for us to look for momentum as part of our decision-making process. I want you to think about 3 areas. So the first one is skills. Do you have the skills? And so for this person who wants to start their own business in an area that they're highly, highly skilled in, I'm like, well, tick, you have the skills to do that. Like it's your technical expertise. So no issues there. The next one is energy. Do they have the energy and drive to actually kickstart this thing and make it work? Like, is there a level of energy around the way they work? And for that person, they're one of the most driven people I've met. They're very ambitious. They work harder than like most of the people that I know. And so I'm like, yes, you have energy, like you have drive. Like there is no short supply of energy and drive for you. And the third area is coachability. Are you coachable? So if you're going to make a big change in your career, you want to look at, okay, well, do I have the skills? And now the skills could be like the baseline foundational skills. You might be able to do 60 or 70% of the job. Cool. So there's a baseline level of skill. Then the next area might be, do I have the energy? Like, do I feel a level of momentum around this? And then the final area of coachability, am I coachable? If I stuff up along the way, which you undoubtedly will, am I able to learn, adapt, and grow? And if you've got those 3 qualities, I just think it's a no-brainer. Take the risk. Like, you're coachable. You're going to learn through it. You're going to learn more through that process than you would staying where you are and stagnating. So like, I am all about taking those risks. And the reason why I say that is as a very risk-averse person who took a big risk and saw the payoff of that, I would love other people to do it. To go, you know what, I'm terrified, but I'm just going to do this thing anyway. I'm coachable. I'll learn through it. If it fails, I'll be okay because I'm adaptable. And then the last thing I will say, Michael, to you and to anyone wanting to take a risk in their career is do the future regret test. So I want you to imagine yourself in 5 years. Like, see yourself in 5 years' time, and what will bother you more? Will it bother you more that you did the thing and it failed? Or will it bother you more that you didn't do the thing at all? And like, genuinely answer that. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Because for some of us, for the perfectionists out there listening, they're like, no, I don't want to do the thing and have it fail, so I'd rather not try at all. So fine, that's your decision. But for the people out there who are like, I actually think I will be really annoyed at myself if I didn't give it a go, then you need to take that step. And as I always say when it comes to career risk-taking, not taking risks in your career tends to be the highest risk move. Because what happens when we don't take any risks? Status quo, stagnation, and the comfort zone, and all those things at the end of the day will stop you from growing in your career. So thank you, Michael, and love you. I love how you always like support the pod. Seriously, I love seeing your name pop up every time. It makes me very happy. This is a good question from Joyfully. I don't know if that's their real name, but I like the energy. You know, I love a bit of joyfulness. How can you tell if a new role is a bad fit or just hard because it's new? Oh my gosh, this is so good. Okay, couple of things. The first 90 days are uncomfortable in any new role. So joyfully, it's going to be uncomfortable. And if it's like super easy from the get-go, you are going to get bored. So when people walk into a new role and they're like, oh, I can do this with my eyes closed, I get way more nervous about that than the people who walk in and are like, oh my gosh, what have I done? There should be a level of like, holy crap, have I just made a terrible mistake? Like that is normal. And so I want to say to you, if you're feeling that level of stretch, of discomfort, of like out of your depth, or like, oh my gosh, have I made a bad move? just know it's normal. I want you to think about, cast your mind back, it's going back a long way for me, to when you first drove a car. And I have to say, like, just as an aside, I am such a bad driver. Like, my husband is he is always like, oh my gosh, you're the worst driver. But I learned with my parents, and I think they were equally as terrified as everyone who gets in the car with me now. I really digress there, but let's just go with it. Anyway, when I was on my L's, when I first learned to drive a car, not well, but I did learn, you know that feeling of it just being clunky? Like you hop into the car and it was a manual and you're trying to get the car into gear and time the clutch and like just all these things, and you're like trying to focus on where you're going and like putting the indicator on. And like I remember once my dad was like, Shell, check your blind spot. And what I would do when I would check my blind spot is I would like look over my shoulder and move the steering wheel, and then the car would swerve, and like it was all very bad. It was very bad and people were afraid, but like I'm a little bit better than that now. Anyway, go with me. When you first drive a car, it feels clunky. It feels weird. You have to consciously think about what you're doing. You have to think about the clutch. You have to think about changing gears. You have to think about the brakes. You have to look around and scan what's going on. And you're just so conscious of all the actions. Whereas as you get better and drive the car for a longer time, all of that stuff becomes innate. You don't have to think about it. It goes from being in your conscious mind to being in your unconscious mind. And when you start a new job, it's like driving the car for the first time again. Things feel clunky. Things feel uncomfortable. Things feel like you're like, I feel like I'm in my head. And so if you feel this way when you start a new job, it's normal. Just know that. And look at it as, I've just got to get my hours up. Like I've got to get my hours up. Like you think about that logbook, your 120 hours or whatever, I think it was only 50 hours we had to do, which also maybe I'm glad that I have to do more hours now. I want you to think about, I've got to get my hours up. I've got to be able to know that I'll start off in my conscious brain where I'm absolutely having to think about everything I'm doing, to moving into that feeling of flow state, but it only comes with time and you can't rush that. So it probably takes 6 months. And I would say give yourself a full 6 months to really get into that zone. Like that's how long it takes to learn how to drive a car. Or is it a year? I don't know, I can't remember. Is it a year, Ryan?
God, on your L's, I think it's 12 months.
12 months, Ryan says. So yeah, we're going to go with what Ryan says because I'm sure he's a better driver than me. Joyfully, I hope that answered your question. The other thing I would just say on making like the new job, when you start a new job, just don't make emotional decisions during the adjustment phase, because there'll be frustration. They'll be like, oh crap, I'm not good at this, or oh, this is really difficult. I was so good at my last job. I'm really struggling here. Do not make emotional decisions. Like give yourself the breathing space to learn, get the reps up. And then after that 6 months, reassess. And you'll find you'll get that rhythm, is my sense. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I've got a few more questions about how long is too long in the one workplace.
Do you want to grow in your career? Are you after a fresh start or some inspiration? Or perhaps you're in a career crisis? The book Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money by Shelley Johnson and Glenn James is such a great resource at any stage in your career. It will give you practical strategies for things like getting a promotion, making more money, moving into a leadership role, taking career risks, or if it's time to quit your job, and so much more. You can find Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money wherever good books are sold or via the link in the podcast show notes. It's also available as an audiobook.
All right, Jamie asks, how long is too long in the one workplace? Well, Jamie, I cannot answer that question for you. I wish I could. I wish I could be like, well, you can only do 3 years and 5 months. And that is the standard maximum time you should stay in any gig. I don't know. But let me give you some questions to ask yourself, because let's use this as a coaching opportunity. I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to think about this for you. So first question that I would ask anyone who's saying, have I stayed here? Have I overstayed my welcome? Number one, are you still growing? Like, are you growing? If you can say, yep, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, amazing. That is a huge, huge indicator. Like you could be in the one job for 13 years. If you're still growing, epic. Where I get nervous when people overstay is when they stop growing and they stagnate. And that's where underperformance can creep in. So I want you to think about that question first up. Are you still growing? Are you still learning? The next one I want you to think about is, are you adding value? We work with an amazing CEO, an amazing organization, and I have so much respect for this CEO. I think the way that they lead is world class. And he often says, he has these values. He talks about personal values for himself. And one of them is, in every interaction he has at work, he wants to add value. And so that's like a metric almost of his success for him. He's like, when he walks into a room, he's like, I'm here to add value. And adding value could be listening, adding value could be asking good questions, adding value could be making a tough call. But whatever that looks like, his internal reflection at the end of the day, leaving, walking out, going, did I add value today? And if you can tick that off, if you can say, you know what, I'm growing here, I'm learning, so tick to those, but I'm adding value. And to me, that is such a profound, deep, important question to ask. And at the end of the day, when you are in a job, you should be adding value. Like, you're paid to do a job and you're paid to do that job well. And so think about, am I adding value to this organization? Like, are they getting a lot of good stuff from me? Because it's energizing when you feel like you're adding value. And so I want you to think about that question and sit with it, because for me, I think sometimes we can get in our heads and we can think, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? And I think some of the best gigs you'll do in your career are when you feel like I'm adding value and I'm giving and there's generosity. And it should be this thing of like shared generosity two-way. But I want you to have that question to go, am I adding value? Do I feel like I'm giving here in a way that's meaningful? Because that giving, that generosity adds back to you. So love that question, Jamie. And I think take the time to ask yourself that. I really encourage people to write stuff down. Like, it is, get your notes app out, write the questions down and sit with them. Do the self-reflection. This is a similar question, but Chris asked, when is the right time to move on to another role at a different workplace? I've been in the same place for nearly 6 years and there's no career growth. It's a very rare occurrence when it does happen. If I move workplace, my pay can increase by over 10K and probably have the chance of more career growth if I move. Thank you, Chris. Good question. This question is one of the most common ones we get. Okay, this is going to be really practical, this one. So if you want to weigh up moving jobs, you need to do something for me. You need to get your phone out and you are going to bring up your notes app and you're going to write this down, because I want this to be super practical. I want to help you make a decision, Chris, and anyone else who's wanting to change jobs. You need to weigh this up. I can't tell you how important this is. So what you're going to do, actually, even if you can handwrite this, I mean, I'm all about hard copy, going analog. So if you can handwrite this, you're going to get 2 columns. So split your page into 2 columns. On one side, you're going to have your values. So write in the heading values. On the other side, you're going to write priorities. Both matter, and I'm going to explain why. So on the, I don't know my left from right. That also might be why I'm a bad driver. Have I told you that before? Like, I have to do this, like left, L. I mean, I find myself like, again, I'm digressing, but like, I think I have a good, decent level of intelligence, but my common sense sometimes is like low, and that's why left, right. Sorry about this. Let's get back to the point. Okay, here we go. On the left-hand side of your page, you're going to write values, and you're going to put 3 down. And on the right-hand side of your page, you're going to write priorities, and you're going to put 3 down. So this is how it works. I'm going to share what mine are, and then I want you to work yours out. So you've heard me talk about this before. If you've listened to this pod, if you haven't, I'm going to tell you because it's really important. You've got to work out your values. Now, your values, your personal values or principles, are the things you need to thrive. 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 Difficult to say. So my first one is growth. I have to be growing. In any job, in any career, in any kind of work situation, I have to feel there's a level of growth. It's very, very deeply important to me. If I don't have growth, I will disengage. The next one is autonomy. So for me, autonomy is really important. I want to be able to have flexibility in how I work, in how I do the role. I want to be trusted to deliver without micromanagement, all that stuff. And then the last one is fun. If the job's not fun, again, I feel I struggle to handle the stress if it's not fun, because I think work is stressful, but if there's a level of fun around it, you can handle that stress better. It's good for resilience, all that stuff. So on the left-hand side of your page, you are going to write your 3 values. Mine say growth, autonomy, and fun. They're the 3 things I need from a job and in my life. Okay, on that right-hand side, it's a thinker, you're going to put your priorities. And so I want you to come up with the top 3 priorities for you right now in your career. Now, they're going to look different based on where you're at. So for example, early in my career in HR, my priorities were career growth. So I wanted to feel there was progression. I wanted to feel like I could move up from HR advisor to senior to a HR manager. Like I wanted to feel there was these stepping stones that I could move and progress in terms of role and scope and focus. So that was a really important thing really early in my career. So you need to work out if career progression is a priority for you, write that down. The next things you might write down, you might say flexibility, remote work, is really important to you. That is a priority because you want to do the school drop-offs, or you want to be able to have that give and take with the way you work. Whatever that looks like, remote work might be on there. Or the other thing you might find is meaningful work. I actually just want meaningful work. You might find a priority for you is working in an amazing team. Like I just want to work with like glorious people and feel challenged by them and work in a high-performing team. You've got to figure out what they are for you. So you're writing these down, your personal values, the things that feel unchanging, they should feel like they've a long-term important thing for you. You'll really notice a value when it's missing. So for me, I remember when I was in a role that was just, I'd gone from like a head of HR style role to back into kind of like a more junior level role as part of a career change after I had kids, and I just wasn't growing. I felt like I can do this with my eyes closed and I'm really bored. And so I realized that value of growth wasn't being met, and I felt just so frustrated. I didn't like the job and I knew I had to get out. You need to work out what those values are. The best way to do it is go, when have I felt most unsatisfied or frustrated at work? Because often it's when they're missing that they're most obvious. So think about those values. Then those priorities, they'll change more frequently. So they often change with life stage. So for people who've got young kids, flexibility and remote work might be really important. But for Gen Zs who are like, I really want to increase my pay and income, and career progression really matters to me. And so I'm willing to give up remote work to be in the office, to get more opportunity to be around senior leaders and progress. It's completely personal to you. So you'll come back and revisit those priorities regularly. They'll change and shift over time. You might be thinking, you know what, one of my priorities is to buy a house, and so I really need to increase my income. So Chris, for you, you said you could leave your job and get a 10K increase straight away. Well, if your priority is, hey, I really need to maximize my income right now because I'm saving for a house deposit, then that is probably a good indicator to go forward with that thing. No one can work this out for you. You have to do the work for yourself. Before you make a call based on a whim, do the self-reflection. And I just think self-reflection is a muscle that we don't often exercise. The reason we don't exercise it is because we're so busy. So you're listening to this pod, you're already like miles ahead in terms of this process. So take the extra 5 minutes after this is done to write this out. I reckon it'll only take you 5-10 minutes max. And I just want to say one more thing on this. So once you've got your list, here's my top 3 values: growth, autonomy, fun. Here's my top 3 priorities: career progression, flexibility, and a great team. Now I want you to walk down that list and think about your current job. And again, super important. Tick what is there and cross what's missing. So if you're in a job and you're like, it's really fun, it's an awesome team, there's lots of growth, but I have no autonomy and there's no progression and I'm not paid well, or whatever it is that's on your priority list. If you've only got 2 out of 6, well, that's probably an indicator that you need to start looking for another job. But if you've got 4 out of 6, I'd say that's pretty good. You're not always going to have everything met. We can't have it all. I don't love those people out there that sprout off these coaches online and they're like, you can have it all. I'm like, no, you can have trade-offs. Like, let's be real. So think about, okay, what am I prepared to trade off in order to get those things that really matter to me? So Chris, do that. Anyone listening, I seriously think this is such a powerful activity. And look, if you know what's great? We've been talking about left or right. We've been talking about driving. We've been talking about all these things. Just know, if you're confused, I'm also confused on a daily basis. But this is not how I intended to end this podcast. But look, we're always real and authentic here. Hey, I just want to say thank you for hanging out, because I was talking to Glenn, the founder of the podcast community we're part of, yesterday or the day before. This is one of the biggest highlights in my career, this podcast. And, we come back to growth and fun and energy. And I think this podcast, autonomy, it gives me all of that. It's such a gift. And getting to know you, I know heaps of people who reach out. Michael, you're one of them, but like lots of amazing people that reach out and connect over this podcast. It just means so much. Honestly, I can't say how much it means to me. I was in the airport the other day and a beautiful, beautiful human, Hannah, came up to me and we chatted for a while we were waiting delayed in Melbourne. And I was like, I just love this community so much, and I love connecting with you and hearing your career stories. So message me on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever. Thank you for hanging out. And if you get something out of this, here's what I want you to do. 5-star rating and review. You know the deal. So Spotify or Apple or both, if you're happen to have both. And share this with a friend who needs to hear it. That helps us get the pod out there. Love you, and we'll be back same time next week.
If you have enjoyed the show today, forward it to a friend, colleague, or family member who you may think it would benefit. Shelley's business Boldside provides leadership training for a variety of different businesses. To learn more, visit boldside.com.au. If you would like to book Shelley to speak at one of your events, please reach out to the team via moneypodcast.com.au.